And Joel, I want to say we're so happy to have you here with us today. When we called, it was a little bit at the last minute, and again, you said no problem, and you came right on. And we know it's just been such a rough week and a half or few days now, and we just join you in your grief and in your sadness at this terrible assassination that occurred. And and I know we all watched the memorial service for Charlie on Sunday, and it was very, very moving. And we wanted to have this episode today on how to have a civil civic conversation. Are civil civic conversations possible? Because so much of what he did and what Turning Point does and what you do on campuses revolves around being able to have these conversations. So we thought we would ask you to start with a few opening comments, and then we'll go to comments and questions. And we also told our listeners if they have tips for civil civic conversation and they want to type them into Q&A, we'll be sure and reading some of those as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you for having me on. I was honored when you called me to definitely get on, and with the situation being so short term. But this is something that I'm really passionate about. These conversations, we need to have them. It becomes destructive when we don't have these conversations because we villainize the other party or the other side or whoever thinks differently from you. So this is something that's really important to me because even I bet other people's families like my own, we can't even have civil conversations because of how it gets out of hand. And I think there's a way that we can do it where we respect each other and in a place where social media just promotes anyone who's outraged and doesn't promote people coming together and have great conversations. And we've seen that from the last couple of weeks of what happened to Charlie and how people want to just villainize anything that he says now that he's not around and always causing issues rather than sitting down and listening, sharpening our ideas. Yeah, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just so excited to be here and thank you once again.
Well, thank you. And Janine, I know I'm sure you've got lots of comments and ideas that you want to share. And so we can go to you next, or if you'd like us to play some of our videos we wanted to play on how to have a civil civic conversation, we can do that too.
Oh, I think I'll go next and then we can play the videos. I think that'd be awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Joel, welcome to the show and thank you for all that you do. I'm trying to pin you here so I can see your face. For some reason it's staying on Kathy. I don't know if it's doing that for everybody or just me or let me go to gallery view here. There you go. Okay, I see you now. Hi, Joel. I'm Janine Turner. I'm the founder of the organization and create all the programs. I thank you for being with us. And gosh, I have to tell you the impact that Charlie Kirk and his organization and you have had on allowing us to have civil civic conversations have just been magnanimous and almost beyond. No one could really touch what y'all have done, and I appreciate it so much. We created a how to have a civil civic conversation. What, Kathy? I had that idea when I was brushing my teeth. Was that about 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago? When was that, Kathy?
Gosh, I'm going to say it was back probably 2015 or so, probably about
10
10
years,
years ago.
10
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah. So for all those that are listening, we book a lot of speeches and I'm going to start getting very involved in the speeches that we book. And one of the speeches that we book is about the Constitution, but the other one's about how to have a civil civic conversation. So if you're listening from a school today, I'm going to be very involved in booking these speeches and we would love to speak to you, whether it's online, homeschool, in your classroom. We have a great program about how to have a civil civic conversation. So please go to our website, constitutingamerica.org, and book a speech and you can find us there. Um, Joel, I have just been devastated as America has, and I sat there from 11 to 5 yesterday watching the ceremony for Charlie Kirk, and when Erica Kirk said she forgave, the young man who shot her husband, I just projectile, I just started to cry, and it's just his legacy is so incredibly moving, and I watch his videos and religion aside, right? The way that he could engage with the students with an opposing point of view was really a bridge that's really not being replicated today. Um, and so, talk to us about that. I had a prayer group this morning, and sometimes when words come in that are attacking or coming out of nowhere, I realize it shuts you down like a box, right?
Yes.
And so you go like this when anybody kind of does that. And so it's like keeping the spirit and keeping your intellect, everything open. So I think there's a way to keep an open conversation where people don't feel compartmentalized and shut down into boxes. What are your thoughts about that?
I think naturally, and this is crazy that we're that we're having this conversation because I was reading the Good Book this morning, and it was talking about I was reading about how there's a divide between each other and a divide before Christ's ultimate crucifixion are divides between him. And I think that just that's human nature, and that's something that we need to work on every day. Because when we hear something that we don't like, we turn into armadillos, right? We curl up, we don't want to hear it, and we become defensive. And it's a hard thing to do. Look, like I say every day, I'm still a sinner, and I try to do my best. And there's moments where, there's things that are gonna just chink your armor, and it's just gonna get under your skin, and you're gonna lash out. But I think the biggest goal to stop from doing that I've been currently working on is making sure you're breathing, making sure you're understanding where the other person's coming from. Because the moment you act like you don't, or you keep yourself so far removed from where they are, it makes it very hard to come together and have a conversation. And I think that's what made Charlie great, was the fact that he was open and letting people come to him with information and viewpoints that might have been very far from where he was, but he understood that he wasn't always there, right? Where the Charlie Kirk that we saw on TV, on YouTube, wasn't the same Charlie Kirk that was in 2017, 2015. He grew and developed to be that individual. So he took himself away from, I'm Charlie Kirk, I'm amazing, to, hey, I'm just a regular American just like you who wants to see what your viewpoint is. And in this conversation, now maybe I can change your mind. Maybe you can change mine, but maybe we can make our ideas even stronger and have stronger beliefs in what we believe.
Interesting that you talk about the fallibility of humans because I think we start out in our prayer groups or Bible reading in the morning, and by 10 o'clock, noon, whatever, we've already, it's like,
Yes.
I just failed. I just like incredibly failed. You know what I mean? I didn't live up to that, did I? Where's my peace? And it's interesting that you talk about his growth as a human being, getting to that point. And so I think that I think for us to expect as Americans that it's going to be immediate may not be immediate. It may just be a gradual sort of progression of an influence to say let's just talk about it. It was interesting. Did I see there was a text he sent to Van Johnson right before he died?
From what I've heard that's true. I haven't seen the text.
Yeah.
Someone can send that to me so I can
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, okay. So I guess we don't have verification of that. But I guess the point is he was always trying to reach out to people that were in opposite points of view to say, let's discuss this.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really beautiful legacy. And I'm glad that we're teaching that at Constituting America as well. We teach about the Constitution, but also if you can't have a civil civic conversation, you can't even talk about the Constitution. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. I want to hear more about you. Where did you work? You worked with Turning Point, and what have you been doing? What are you doing now? I'm real intrigued with your life mission.
Yeah. So currently, I've been going through a stage of transformation. The good Lord has been transforming what I viewed my life to be and what He's viewing my life for. I'm taking more time this year, next year, that I already had on my schedule to go to different campuses, Charlie, Turning Point campuses, and just speak about my faith, how we can have civil conversations, which that's why I'm so excited that you guys thought of me, because it's something that I really care about, as well as entrepreneurship. I want to give people the ability to know that they can own something, right? And I think Charlie believed in this. He probably didn't speak about it as much, but this, there's other opportunities just like myself. I didn't make it far in the educational realm after my high school, but I believe that if things continued getting worse, but you can own something, it's hard to cancel someone and lose a job when you own what you're working on. And then there's no one to tell you what you can do. You can take control of your life. And that's something that's I'm very passionate about because that's what entrepreneurship capitalism has done for me. My family come from Dominican Republic, where obviously the situation's not as amazing as in the United States. It's gotten a lot better. My family came here for a reason. And I use that story of what my family did to get us here so I could be born here and all these things so I could be a proud American and take advantage of the opportunities that we have here, which we can start anything we want. We can believe and we can grow something. So right now, I want to take a tour around different college campuses, and this is what I've been working on, just to spread the word of God and just empowering young individuals that, hey, get whatever degree you want, do whatever you want, own something, structure your life well, have a lot of kids, have an amazing wife or amazing husband, and and let God bless you through your work.
You're talking. Yeah, I think you're talking about having agency over your own, and kind of the wonderful thing. I think when we have people in our lives, or we have employees, or whatever it may be, it's like let them have their freedom to
Hmm.
create, let them have their ability to go own the pride in what they're doing and then grow without hovering over them. I think that that's a really beautiful thing that you're sort of talking about, but also finding your purpose. It's like there are a lot of faiths in America, freedom of religion, but it seems to have been missing, that there's a higher power, whatever you may choose. It's not freedom from religion in the First Amendment, it's freedom of religion in the First Amendment, and that to have that gives you a sense of purpose that's beyond just yourself. And I find that to be my saving grace. And I thank you for all that you're doing. I need to pass in about a minute and a half, but I want to ask you, when how do you have a civil civic conversation? We have a great video with a lot of our winners who talk about that, but we all fail at this. It's whether it's with a parent or a child, a brother or sister or coworker, we all fail at this like constantly. But I felt it really this morning in my prayer group. I felt like I was shut down into a box the minute something happened. And I thought, okay, and I took a deep breath. I thought, I can choose to be in this box, or confined, or I can choose to kind of rise out of it, as I mentioned earlier, with prayer and meditation and things of that nature. If you're talking to somebody and they're in your face, or they're just attacking you, say politically out in the college campus or whatever it may be, how do you handle that? How do you handle that? Charlie seemed to be, and you talked about how his growth with that, and that's good to hear. We all are growing.
Yeah.
I would say it's two steps up, one step back, two steps up, one step back. Uh, but what is your recommendation to students in high school and college who just are, I think after Charlie's death, we're all more courageous to talk our truth, to speak our truth. But then again, when someone's attacking you, it's hard not to just kind of become the turtle. How do you emerge out of that box and go ahead and have that conversation peacefully?
Think the first step is understanding that they're not attacking you. They're attacking your ideas. Your ideas aren't you. You are you, right? And through that, you continue to have these ideas and what you believe and how you believe the world works and how do you think God is control of everything. Those are your ideas. Those are not you. When they're attacking your belief, not you. So sometimes you have to separate a little bit and understand they just don't understand where you're coming from. They don't understand how you got there, and they're going to attack you because history has showed us that you attack people that are different from you. That's just how it is. Why are there wars? Why are this? People are attacking people that they don't understand. So take yourself away from your ideas for a little bit and see where they're at. And that's something I learned from Charlie is meet your opposition where they're at. I'm not saying that they spit on you, you spit on them. If they start screaming, you scream back. Meet them where they're at. If they're in a position where they can't see themselves even getting close to what you believe in, find out why. Think about it. See it from their point of view and guide them to a place where maybe you guys can meet in the middle, right? Because if someone's far left or someone's far right, our job is not to stay in these positions and scream at each other from a distance with our views. Our job is to come close with our views and have discussions about them and see it from someone else because the moment we can see it from someone else's eyes, we humanize the individual that doesn't understand us.
Really, really good. Yeah.
And people don't listen to people they dislike. So be someone that's likable, understand them, meet them where they're at. And that's going to bring their guard down to be vulnerable and open to what their true ideas are. And they're not going to just be speaking these talking points that they heard someone else say and someone else say. They're going to tell you the truth of what they truly feel, not how they've been influenced by others, what they truly feel. And when you can find out why someone truly feels something, that is, and I'm not trying to use no puns intended, but that's when you have a turning point. And I think that's what Charlie perfectly embodied, and I think that's what the organization Turning Point's perfectly embodied, and that's exactly how he would have conversations, and I think that's how you do it.
That's beautiful. Not to dehumanize. I've heard that word a lot lately. You know, if you dehumanize the person and immediately categorize that person, and I think that's what the news does, social media does. There's just you're not having the actual conversation. You're just type. It's dehumanizing the person. If you can see the human soul in that person, where's the pain of where they're coming from? Where's the fear that's motivating them? That's beautiful, Joel. That's really beautiful, and I just appreciate you so much. And it's like if we can't have a common dialogue of reason. I don't think you can have reason if you can't hear.
Is Janine frozen?
Yeah, it's frozen for me too. I just wanted to make.
Okay. Well, and
Yeah, did my
there we
computer
go.
freeze? Yeah,
Yeah, you
I don't
froze
know
just.
why. We keep calling the computer company, and I don't know why my computer keeps freezing. But anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to pass to my colleagues now, and thank you for all that you're doing. I appreciate you, and you've inspired me today.
I appreciate it.
Thank
So
you.
Janine, would you like us to play a couple of our videos
Yeah, I
before
think
we
that'd
go
be
to
great.
Jewel?
Sure. You
Okay.
want to set them up for everybody?
Yeah, so we, as our audience knows, out of our many programs that we have a contest for kids where they can submit best song, best public service announcement, best short film, and so the first video we play is going to be one of our winning public service announcements on how to have a civil civic conversation, and then after that, we may go to Jewel, and then in between Jewel and Jonah, we'll play maybe our second video that was filmed. One of the things that we do that's different from many organizations is our winners win scholarships, but they also win an all expense paid mentor trip where they get to meet with mentors in their field and constitutional mentors. And so one of the trips we did a while back, we had some of our We the Future contest winners just sit around and talk about tips for how to have a civil civic conversation. So we'll go with our public service announcement first, Jorn, if that's good with you.
You have some dough. It's lunchtime, but there's no way you would eat just dough for lunch, right? Well, the good thing is, I have some cheese. Your friend has some tomato sauce. This random guy on the street has pepperoni in his backpack. If we bring all these ingredients together, we end up with something much better than any of them alone. A savory pizza for lunch. But each of us has not only different ingredients, but also different opinions coming from our different life experiences. If we bring all these experiences and all these opinions together in friendly, civil conversation, we end up with opinions and ideas that are better than any of our individual opinions before. So if we want to come up with better ideas for a better world, what we really need are civil, civic conversations. Pizzas. It's an American thing. AmericanThing.org.
So with that, Jewel, I'm going to let you react to that for a second with Joel, and we'll go on to your comments and your questions.
Yeah, so one of the things I love about Constituting America is the empowering students that it does through being able to have them create works about important topics and things that matter. So not just having them learn by telling them stuff, but they take part in their education, they create it. So I love watching that one. I got to see that play live in front of students on our Constitution Day program, and they always laugh at the part when they say this guy's got some pepperoni in his backpack, and they love that part. But I thought it dovetailed great with a lot of what you said, which was um, humanize the other person. You know, realize that your ideas are different than just who you are. Because if we want the best ideas to come out, if we want to be able to make that pizza, then we have to be willing to disagree, learn how to talk about our disagreements, and learn to let the best idea rise to the top. And then if it's not our idea, be okay with that being discarded, because that's not really who we are, because we take our value from something else. So I guess, Joel, I wonder what, first of all, that's kind of my first reaction to that video, why I think it's effective. So before I ask my next question, what do you think about that?
Really like I really like the video and how it portrayed, everyone having a little bit of something, then we can bring it together to make what we want. And that was actually a really cool video. I was actually
Yeah.
surprised at the analogy of that. And I think everything that you said is correct. We need to be able, and I'm going to reiterate again, we need to be able to humanize each other, because if we don't look at each other like human beings, and then you get, you know, really bad conversations. So understanding people's differences and meeting them where they're at, and, explaining yourself and why you feel what you feel, and letting them express how they feel without them feeling attacked. Because the moment any one of you feel attacked, you're going to shut down, and it's never going to be great for the conversation.
Now, when we're talk on this call, there's students on this show. There's students right now watching, and there's also adults watching. And so, first, I want to speak to the adults briefly. I think that we need to show students how to have civil civic conversations. So, speaking in, especially when we're in any type of educational role, a coaching role, but also just day to day online, because um just so everyone really should take this into consideration. Although there is supposed to be protection on social media for age, the truth is that almost anything you post can be seen by any age, because those protections only can really be as far as that kid is being overseen, and a kid's not with his parent 24/7. So whether it's just online comments, or if it's in person, or a coaching role, or a teaching role, what advice do you have first for the adults, that we need to set an atmosphere where ideas can combat, where you can still come away from a conversation and be friends with those who disagree with?
I would say first, I think adults sometimes need to remember that we're adults, and I say that to myself. We forget the position that we're in, and we don't act in the position that we are. And we have to remember that there's a younger generation that are looking up to us, and we're guiding them into how their future is going to look, and they're learning from us how to have these conversations. So first is remembering your position, and remembering that there's always someone watching that's going to learn from you, and being very careful on how you move forward.
Yeah, I think that in so many students deal with uh being victimized for their ideas from adults, when even when they're young. And to an extent, I think it will leave students feeling very isolated if that ever happens. And I also think that then when an adult, that it is at times we really need to be willing to have the uncomfortable conversation with another adult when we see that, and just say, you know, I know that you probably could say that to someone else, but realize that when you said that thing, that student probably now feels very isolated in their ideas and their beliefs, because you just said everybody who thinks this is this,
Mhm.
or you made people think that anyone who has this opinion that their parent may have is this kind of a person.
Yeah, I'm sorry here, we're breaking up just a little bit. There.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you. I heard
Okay,
most.
cool.
It was just towards the end. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem. So now for students, so we talked about a lot when how to approach a conversation for someone to hopefully be able to be in the right mindset and to help as much as they can the other person, whether that person's being hostile or not. Now, why do you think that we're dealing with so much hostility from youth around political ideas? Because there's some I when I was growing up, it had started a bit. There was some social media stuff a little bit, but at the same time, there was way more passion around like sports teams and saying like this your favorite quarterback stinks, stuff like that, than
Yeah.
there was around like politics. And what I see is like an aggressive response to people around politics as young as, like the end of elementary school. So where do you think that's coming from?
All right, I'm going to tell you where I truly think it's coming from. I think it's coming from powers at hand that could be influencing children in a way that you're emotionally charging them and then like making the other person evil in their eyes. And it makes it more prominent now because let's be honest, social media is giving a microphone to everyone. Everyone, no matter how young, no matter how old, social media gives you a platform where you'll be able to speak your ideas. And like I said in my opening statement, social media really promotes outrage and anger and emotion. So all someone has to do is be emotionally charged, and I promise you that video will go viral, and people are gonna eat it up. Human nature is we love conflict, right? We might not admit it, but it's the honest truth. That's why, and I'm not going on a tangent here, and that's why reality TV shows do so great numbers because it's all full of drama. Drama is what moves the needle, and I think there's a group of individuals empowering these kids and not saying the things that they should and villainizing each other, making them have stronger opinions, and then using this microphone, this tool, social media, to promote it where it's going to be the first thing on your For You page because social media promotes outrage.
Yeah, there's social media can do so much good, like we see it can do with the things that Constituting America puts on, so much of the content that a turning point can make. But it also we're combating so much other stuff, so much violence and evil and things that they're getting to, that we do need to be aware of it in everything we're doing and creating as a culture, as a community. I also do. So when we're working with students and we're telling them about the founding documents, that is something that can ground our culture, our society on something that we share, no, even if you don't like them. Um, there's a in, we always say, and Janine is a big proponent of making sure we always say it in the presentations to the students about our founding documents, that the Declaration of Independence is the golden apple, and the Constitution is the frame that's holding up that apple. And to me, the core of that apple is the statement that all men are created equal with certain inalienable rights endowed by their creator, that among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that principle grounds our laws, grounds everything that we believe in. And that you're allowed to say, I don't like that. I disagree with that. I don't believe any of that. And that's fine. But the truth is that regardless of if no one believed it, it's still a thing that's grounding our community, because that's what our community is built on, our laws are built on. I think that our education, removing that grounding principle, has made talk and education too superficial, so that kids are confused about why. Why does this matter? Instead of talking about morality, you may have like sensitivity training. And then while there may be something true about it and something good in that, we don't link it to something that means something. So it's still left with a kid maybe not being able to understand, why are we talking about bullying being bad? Why are we talking about these things wrong? And you get kids just confused. And I think that something as simple as people may never link the Constitution or talking about the Constitution and Declaration to bullying. But to me, I think that it's linked because it is a way that grounds everybody on something that links us together as Americans, and that we're allowed to disagree with it, but it is the basis of our law. And I don't think that the education or that understanding has been part of our civics.
I would agree.
So that is my time's up. This is obviously a passionate subject for all of us on the call. I love that we were able to ground in what we did and show that video. But please, Joel, feel free to speak as much as is on your heart. And we got more to show too. But we have another video to show, and we've got Jonah on the show as well today. But please feel free to speak as freely as you want.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I wanted to talk about what you just said, and I think you're on the bullseye. The fact that we don't bring it back to the Constitution and the document that our forefathers created to create this country, if we don't bring it back to that, we lose our way, and we lose who we are. And in the process, we create this America, this that we don't remember, that doesn't look like anything of how it started. And I think you're right. I think we need to get back to that. We need to be open with our conversations and have great conversations, and challenge each other's thoughts, but bringing it back to how we started, the document that gives them the freedoms that we have, the document that provided freedom of speech, freedom of practicing religion, all these different things. So so we all have an equal playing field in knowing where we're at and just bringing our different ideas to each other. And I appreciate you bringing that up. That actually resonated a lot with me. I appreciate it. I'm gonna take that home with me.
Thank you, and I'll pass on back to Kathy or Jonah.
Yeah, and I think we'll pop in here and play our other video that we want our audience to see. And we were getting a lot of great audience tips and questions and comments. But we'll, Jordan, if you could play our How to Have a Civil Civic Conversation video, and then Jonah, will go to you.
I do have a friend that we never agree to anything, but we're still friends. But we usually talk it out, and we apply reasoning and reasons why we think that way. So I will hear her out, and then I would add on to like what she thought and how I agreed with her, and then she would do the same with me, and then we would also talk about our disagreements, and we would just kind of work it out in the end and just be like, okay, yes, I understand that you feel that way, and we just understand each other in the end.
One thing that's important to understand too is that no one knows everything. And every time you talk to someone, you might learn something new. So it's always worth starting that conversation. And even though you might feel like you're so steadfast in that issue, that person might bring up a topic that you never really thought about it from that angle before. And it's always interesting to think about it like that.
Yeah, going along with what you're saying, I found you really have to look for your common ground, and you can really learn new things. What I've learned through having a lot of these conversations with my friends and people who disagree with me is just because you think you're 100% right doesn't mean the other person is necessarily 100% wrong. There are gray areas in politics and in government, and just because you're right doesn't mean someone's wrong, and vice versa. There's so many different interpretations, and none is 100% right and perfect, and none are 100% terrible and evil. So when you're having these conversations or arguments, whatever you want to call it, you have to try and find your common ground. What else? You have to go into the conversations with an open mind. You can't have the mindset of, I am right, they are wrong, that's all that's gonna happen, because then nobody's gonna change their opinion, and your conversation will just be a waste of time. What you can do is go into the conversation thinking, well, I'm pretty sure I'm right, I'm pretty sure they're wrong, but let me see where this conversation takes us, and maybe your opinion will even be changed.
You don't even have to always find common ground when you don't, when you're having two opposing opinions, because at the end of the day, it's everyone has their own perspective. I cannot walk through life the same way as someone else. So when I go into debates, or I don't really agree with the person says, I used to have a bad habit of I listened to respond and I didn't listen to understand. So now I try to step outside of myself and listen. And of course I go into the overanalyzing, what's their background? What they do? I kind of think let me try to piece together why they think the way they think, because for something that's logical thinking for me, being from Chicago, on the South Side, may not be the same logical way of thinking.
Jordan, I think we just lost sound.
Yes, the sound cut out on the video there.
At the not be so selfish with your thoughts, you know, and just like really open up and be willing to take in what someone has to say, whether you agree with it or not, because ultimately it's going to help shape the way you think overall.
One of the main causes of having like a fight or an argument is a misunderstanding. So it really helps me to listen out the other person's argument and repeat it back to them and be like, okay, so you think this. And you repeat back their argument and say, am I understanding you correctly? Like, did I get everything? And then they say, yes. And then you say, all right, so here's what I think. And then you're able to make sure that you understand each other and you didn't miss anything in their argument, and that you're able to walk away with understanding instead of anger.
A lot of people go into the conversation like with the one intention of like trying to convince the other person and make them know that they're wrong. But when you go into these conversations, there's a very little chance that anyone's going to change their mind. So what I like to do is just like try and plant a seed, you know, of maybe your opinion, and right away they might not relent and change their opinion, but it just might be a thought or a seed, and maybe it'll grow into another opinion or another way of thinking about the issue.
Well, that's great. Those are We the Future contest winners, I think, really came up with some great tips, and that was just really kind of spur of the moment. We just sat them down on beanbags. That was Janine's idea, and Janine said, "Hey, let's have them talk about this." And Janine filmed it and produced it and did a great job with it. And Jonah, I think you were when we were on one of your winter trips when you won back in, I think it was 2019. We did a civil civic conversation exercise where we had all of our We the Future contest winners actually take part in one of our civil civic conversation exercises that Janine talked about that we do in the classrooms. So I'm gonna let you react a little bit to the video and have a conversation with Joel, and then after that we'll go to our audience questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kathy. Um, I always love watching that video because I've actually seen it a couple times now that I've been on a couple of those trips, but it kind of takes me back to whenever we did our little movie that we had whenever we came out for our trip. It helps. I think one of the key takeaways is keeping an open mind, which I think that we struggle with today. And I was kind of curious, Joel, if you maybe had an opinion as far as how we've got away from the open mindedness, because I think you kind of hint at it whenever you talk about humanizing people, because I feel like we have dehumanized people and we've looked at them as not a person or someone who can be convinced. We don't think that they can come to common agreement with us, so we just attack, attack, attack. So kind of where do you think that maybe came from, where we got away from being open-minded?
I believe that we kind of lost being open-minded a couple years ago. I think it kind of started around the 2016 time where media, individuals in power would make it seem like, hey, this person great, this person's bad. I think that's where it started. Rather than saying these are the viewpoints of this candidate, this is the viewpoint of another candidate, regardless party, regardless anything. I think when they started doing that and started attacking individuals, I think that's where it all started. Because now, if you're if if you're a certain group that believes in something and you're getting attacked by the media, online, everywhere else, you already coming in a way that you're trying to defend yourself every time you speak your ideas. You feel like the minority, right? And the ones who feel empowered by media and by everyone else, you start feeling like you're always right and there's no way that you can be wrong. And like that young lady in that video said, the moment you feel that you're 100% right and think the other person's 100% wrong, you're wrong yourself. You've lost, right? And she said it. There's a lot of gray areas in politics. There's a lot of things that he said, she said, or multiple things happen to cause an outcome to happen, and sometimes we don't have the whole story. And as citizens of the United States and as civilians, sometimes we're not in those positions of power, and we're not in those conversations that they may had, and we don't know the whole story. There's a lot of times that we're having our viewpoints based off certain parts of a story that we've heard or has been told to us. but we weren't in those rooms. We weren't on those phone calls. We don't know truly what's happening. We're just trying to understand the most we can out of the information we have.
That's a very good point. And I actually really love going to what Tova was saying in that video about planting that seed. Whenever you know that someone may not agree with you, if you can just plant just a little seed to be able to spread that bit of curiosity, because that was actually one of my points that I was thinking about before coming on this podcast about how much curiosity even improves conversation. Because once we get away from being curious about things and just being dead set on certain ways of how we believe, we kind of just go away from wanting to have those types of conversations. I also think it's important that we discuss like the hard topics and hard conversations because if we just shy away from having uh, discussing those hard topics, then no one's going to want to be able to talk about them, and then they'll build up all this emotion, how we were kind of pointing about earlier, and then it just, I guess, overflows, and then people just can't have that conversation in the end. And I know we talk about a lot about social media, and I know that you have been trying to influence schools and stuff. How do you think that social media can make civil conversations easier?
I think the way social media can make it easier is we have a blueprint. Sadly, he's not here anymore, but we have a blueprint of how it worked, right? Setting up some place, being interested and curious, like you just said, about what people have to say, and meet them where they're at. I think the way Charlie did it and not editing videos and not changing to make himself look amazing and make everyone else look foolish, but the fact that he left unedited videos, had conversation with people, with students walking around, everyday students that are voters, that are gonna determine the future of this country. I think he did it best. I think he's having great conversations and not editing things. And hey, if someone stubs you because you don't know an information, isn't that amazing? Doesn't that just make your idea sharper? Doesn't that just make you want to go home and study more about what you believe so you can iron out those details? But I think people don't like to be uncomfortable and people don't like to be called out. And you feel a little shame when someone knows something and you don't, and you feel like you're right, but they've proven you just a little bit. But I think that's why we need to have these conversations. And I think social media helps with that. But it all depends on, are we editing? Are we making it look like we are God's gift to earth? Or are we making it transparent that, hey, they brought up something that I didn't get to study or didn't know nothing about. Can I come back and talk about it? And having great conversations during the comments. In the comments are the best place to have the conversation because the video just tells you what they were talking about and their viewpoints and maybe a conversation they had with someone else. But the comments, if we can be respectful within the comments of a post and read to understand, I think social media, no matter what platform it is a great tool if it's used in that line, in that framework.
Yeah, I 100% agree because I think social media is honestly is kind of how we've got to the point where we can't even discuss it face to face because people would rather type and text online rather than be able to have a conversation like this face to face. One of the other questions I had was what ground rules would you recommend for people to have these civil civic conversations? So if I go up to my friend and we know that we disagree, which I disagree with my friends quite a bit. So it's easy to have those conversations for me. But what would be some ground rules that you would recommend as far as how to have those types of conversations and to be civil about it?
I don't attack. I don't do any personal attacks. Be, because once you do a personal attack, you're attacking the person, not the ideas. And the whole point of these conversations is to attack the ideas of individuals, not to attack each other. And I think that's where people get misconstrued. They get lost. They hold this identity into what they believe and they call it themselves. But your ideas and your beliefs are just a part of you. They aren't you. Um, and when you understand that and when you can have that conversation in that manner, it changes everything because you're going to come in and watch the story that you tell yourself. Everyone has, I'm going to quote this from my aunt. Um, she's an amazing woman and she's America's marriage coach. And she told me this, that this applied in relationships, but this is a relationship too. When you're having conversation, you're building a relationship with the person you're speaking with, whether you agree with them or not. or you're going to call each other friends after this or not. Hopefully you do. But in that relationship, you're coming in with a story, right? The same thing, we're coming thinking that you're 100% right. You're playing a story in your head. Oh, they're going to say this, and I'm going to say that, and I'm going to get them checkmate. Don't do that. Don't play the story in your head, because the moment you do that, you're gonna come with a position that hasn't even happened yet. You're gonna think of the things they're gonna say that they haven't even said yet. You're gonna think that they're gonna call you all the names in the book, and they haven't even called it to you yet. So be open-minded, hear what they have to say. Don't attack them. Don't say you're stupid because you think that. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't get anywhere. Attack the ideas. Hey, I don't know how I feel about that idea. It doesn't seem right. It seems inconclusive that this and this would happen. Not you're dumb for thinking that way. Because now you just dehumanize that person, and you brought shame to that person. You belittled that person. And now that person, is that, you think that person is going to respond with love? Honestly.
No,
No.
no.
Come on. They feel attacked. And when you feel attacked, what do? You defend yourself. It's human nature. And I think those are the ground rules that I would say. Just don't attack each other. Don't play the story in your head. Let them tell you. Don't start thinking for them. Let them speak for themselves and understand where they're coming from, and just be respectful as possible, even if they don't. Because the one who wins the conversation, and not that there's a winner and a losing, but the one who wins in the sense of take something out of the conversation, not wins like, hi, I have destroyed my enemy from what I've said. No, the winner is the one who understands the most and can walk away with something for the next conversation that they have. The winner is the one who doesn't strike with the low blows. The winner is the one who goes and tries to meet them where they're at, regardless if they disrespect you. And trust me, anyone who's there watching or listening are going to understand who's the strong individual in that conversation, and it can change minds because of that. You can change minds just because you're not the one being disrespectful.
I
Yeah.
love I love how you mentioned to meet them where they're at, because I think that just kind of sets the groundwork for being that better person from the get-go. Like, you knowing that even though you may disagree, you're always going to be the better person. And you want to strive to be the better person, but you also want to keep them to go along with you as well. I know I'm a little bit over my time, but I kind of wanted to ask this part because I just came from college. I know that there's a lot of college students out there as well, because colleges and universities are a place where it should be an open conversation. We should be able to voice our opinions without being judged for as far as what our opinions are. But what kind of inspiration or advice would you give to college students who don't feel comfortable on voicing their opinions?
That don't feel comfortable voicing their opinions. Okay. I like to take time before I speak, because I like the spirit to speak to me. And I try to, like I said, meet them where they're at, trying to understand it. And that one hits a little bit home. And I want to first, before I answer that question, I want to tell you why it hits home. When I first worked with Charlie, when I first got my phone call from Charlie, 2018, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know and he was calling me to come to an event. I came to an event. I loved what I heard, and I wanted to be involved. But in the process, I was scared. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Look, a lot of people, they want to sit on this high horse and tell you, I always believed, and I did this without fear. No, I had fear coming out with my opinions, going to college campus, speaking to college students about what I believed. So much that there was a time where I didn't even do much speaking engagements when it came into the political space for turning point events. I didn't, because I didn't want that to be tied to me. I didn't like how negative politics were getting. But what's been put in my heart for the last couple of years is, don't be scared to speak your opinion. One, because everyone has one. And even if you believe that no one wants to hear it, trust me, people love hearing the thought processes of other individuals. That's the way they regulate if they're thinking properly. So sometimes it has nothing to do with they don't like your ideas. Sometimes they want to listen to your ideas to see if they're far off, or have they fallen off too far from the path, or are they too drastic, or are their thought processes too erratic. Sometimes they're using you as a way to check where they're at with their ideas. So it's not always about, hey, I want to debate you because I want to debate. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't do debates for that same reasons. I'm scared of debates till this day, right? I think there's a select group of people that are amazing at debating. Charlie was one of them. And God rest his soul, I don't think I have that ability to have those facts and be ready and quote 20,000 scriptures ready and how the Bible perfectly ties to the government and how we should. Guys, I'm just a regular guy and I don't even have that. But this is what I'll tell you. If you stay quiet, you won't feel the power and the confidence to ever speak up. It's like anything in life. It starts with one step, right? Look, I'm here speaking with you guys. I took a lot of one steps to get here, right? Take the first step. Just have a conversation with somebody. Hey, what do you think? And sometimes you, it starts off not by you being boisterous and proud about your ideas, but maybe you're the one regulating your ideas and you just want to see if you're far off from the path, or maybe you feel like, am I a conspiracy theorist? I don't know, whatever ideas, but talk to other people and just try to figure out where you land on certain things because it's going to sharpen your ideas, even if you're not trying to defend them, even if you're just trying to learn from someone else. So,
I appreciate it, Joel.
of course.
Well, thank you. This has been a great discussion so far and very, very helpful. And we want to be sure and recognize our teachers and students that are watching today. We have D'Angela Hines with Emerald Coast Christian Academy watching with students, Peggy and Paul Forster, who are teachers emeritus, and student Kenyon Wanis watching. And if you're a student watching in your classroom or a teacher watching with your students, be sure and let us know in the Q&A and we'll give you a shout out before the end of the program. We also want to thank our listeners in Las Vegas's KKVV 1060 AM on the radio dial. KKVV in Los Angeles and Las Vegas airs Constituting America's Constitutional Chats on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. So, Joel, thank you again, and Jonah and Jewel and Janine. We've got a lot of listener comments here, and I thought I would start with Deborah Davis, who says, I've heard that if you yell, people instinctively move back, but if you whisper, people lean into you to hear. Deborah says, I'm not good at confrontation. Do you think this method could help could help a civic conversation or civil civic conversation? Do you want to comment on that, Joel, or
Yeah,
could you
yeah.
hear?
Yes, I did hear. There was a lag. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi. It might not be you guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
My Wi-Fi might be bad. I have a 1.5-year-old that loves being on an iPad and loves to have everything in the house play videos and stuff. So he might be just using up my Wi-Fi. But yes, if you could repeat it, it was a little choppy towards the end, just so I could get that last bit.
Yeah, Deborah says, I've heard that if you yell, people instinctively move back, but if you whisper, people lean in to hear. Deborah says, I'm not good at confrontation. Do you think this method could help a civil civic conversation?
Yes, I definitely believe it helps. Okay. As someone who was timid, like I said before, about my beliefs and my ideas, I've used that strategy to get people eager to want to hear what I have to say next. And the good thing about when people are eager, it gives you this confidence to speak up because it's like they give you the floor rather than it being a place where you feel intimidated. Now they're so eager to hear what you have to say that you feel like you just have to tell them. And that's a great strategy. And remember this. Really understand what conflict means. Understand that not every situation where you're opening your mouth and giving your opinion is a conflict or a confrontation. It's not. Sometimes it's just a nice discussion. And just learn to really understand which one is which. Because then, if you do, then you'll understand that certain times you'll have more confidence in others. And all you need to do is understand when there is a conflict or something like that, and know when there's not. Because when there's not, then you feel more confident to speak. And then the more you speak, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the more confident you'll be able to speak when you feel like you are being confronted.
Well, thank you. And we probably have time for one more listener comment. And then Janine, if we can come back to you, if you want to come back on here at the end. Judith says there's a strategy in conflict resolution where you reframe and repeat back to the person what they said. It helps them feel heard. And there's the technique that Jesus Christ used of first building yourself up in the Word of God so you're built up and not at a loss for words, and then asking a question.
Yes. Whoever, I don't even think that was a question. I think that was a statement. That was beautiful. That's exactly how you get it done. You want to make sure whoever you're speaking to feels heard and respected. The moment that you can repeat exactly what they say, they can't deny when you then give your opinion on the subject because they know exactly where you're trying to pinpoint. If you just go and you hear what they say, but you don't hear to listen just to respond, they might be going down the path where it might be similar to a subject that they're talking about, but they're coming about it by a completely different angle. And you're putting words in their mouth about where they might be going because of the topics they brought up or their evidence of why they believe what they believe. So, yes, make sure to repeat what they say. Make sure that they agree that you understand what they're saying so then you can properly give your opinion on what they're speaking about.
Well, thank you. And we are right at the top of the hour. I know Janine, I'm sure wants to have some closing words. I want to say the students that you visit on their campuses are just very, very blessed to have you there. And we thank you for your outstanding work with Turning Point USA and your very generous gift of time and wisdom today with us during the past few days that we know have been just difficult beyond words, honestly. So we really want to thank you. And Janine, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, I just echo Kathy's sentiments, Joel. Thank you so much. And you inspired me because I thought about what you said about I just pause and listen. You know, I want to pause and listen to what the Holy Spirit says to me before I speak. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And I really, really appreciate that and teaching us how to have civic conversations. I also really like the aspect of repeating it back.
Yes.
That's very powerful, isn't it? I you know, all the videos with Charlie, I've seen that. He will say it back to them. Like, okay, you're saying this. Did I hear you correctly? And it kind of puts it back out there, and that's a really great negotiation tool. But you know, I just think we all have to keep in mind. What do you think, Joel? That the foreign adversaries, if they can turn us against one another and have us have an internal civil war where we collapse, that's kind of historically the way other countries have gone in. We're setting us up. We're setting ourselves up for failure. And if the sooner we can learn that we're all Americans and we're all human beings and we all have hearts and souls, and let's just listen, the more not only do we have a better, more peaceful life, but we have a protected country. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's completely true. People need to understand that we're citizens first, right? We have to stand by the words America first because this is where we live, right? We're like, yes, some of us may have come from other places, like my family, I'm a first generation American, but this is our home right now. And we have to stand for what we believe and we have to resolve our own issues because if not, there won't be an America to stay in, right? It
Mhm.
won't be the beautiful country that we know, right? It won't be the superpower that we know. And it's a superpower for a reason. There's a reason why people travel all over the world to come to the United States. They can agree, they can disagree, but there's a reason why people are fleeing to come here is the opportunities. And we need to remember what we have, because when you don't know what you have, that's when you lose it. We have to understand what we have as American citizens, the gift that we have, the abilities and the things that we have, the documents of what the forefathers left us to create this amazing nation, and make sure that we come together and be able to hear each other. And and every relationship, every conversation is a give and take. They'll take here, you give here. You take, you give. And we need to have more of those conversations because as a first generation American, I'm worried for the future of this country. I just
You
have
know,
I'm worried about his future. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's like we have checks and balances in government, and we need checks and balances amongst ourselves, don't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? because it's we the people. So if we can check and balance our conversations, then we're protecting our country. Because that's going to be so easy for a foreign adversary just to come in and take over when we've demolished ourselves. And I think that there's a higher spiritual purpose to listening to one another, and there's a higher American purpose for listening to one another. But Joel, you're awesome. You've been a great guest. It would just come back. Thank you for all you're doing. It's been such a hard couple of weeks. God bless you. Yeah, and God bless Charlie Kirk. God bless Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk and Turning Point for all they do. And God bless you, Joel. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye.